and welcome to our one-on-one interview series with key members of Parliamentarians for Global Action, or PGA, a non-governmental, multi-party international network of legislators acting in their individual capacities that informs and mobilizes parliamentarians in all regions of the world to advocate for human rights and the rule of law, democracy, human security, inclusion, and gender equality. My name is Monica Adame, and I am the Director of the Gender Equality and Inclusion Program. The purpose of these interviews is to learn more about the experience of our elected representatives, how they became a parliamentarian and human rights defenders, their passions and interests, their work with PGA, and the importance of addressing gender issues in their own country. I hope you enjoy this opportunity to getting to know them, and thanks for listening. So today I am really honored to have as our first interviewee, Madame Margareta Cederfelt, who has been a member of parliament from Sweden since 1999. She is PGA's president. She was elected in November 2017, and she is also vice president of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Organization for Cooperation and Security of Europe. So, Madame Cederfelt, it is a real pleasure for Eva and me to give you our welcome. Thank you so much for participating in this interview. And I will begin with, how are you? How are you doing in this moment?
Thank you very much, Monica. But please call me Margareta, because I'm Margareta. Thank you, Monica. Thank you. If it's not inconvenient for you, of course.
Not at all.
Good. I am very fine. Thank you. I am glad that PGA do this project, as I see it's very important to make research. Why do the members of PGA, first of all, get in touch with politics and continue to do the political work? And I think this is excellent. And if we are talking about women in politics, I think it's even more, because we know that it's difficult times these days. And then we could see in quite a lot of countries that the number of women in politics decrease. And this is something to be really take care of. But in all other aspects, I am very fine. It's summer and the sun is shining, and yeah, that's good.
Great. Well, and let's then get into it. And you started with that conversation on female parliamentarians. So you, as a female parliamentarian, even though Sweden has been a very equalitarian society, how do you see your role as a female parliamentarian in your own country?
Well, I would like to say I see my role as female parliamentarian, just as a parliamentarian, because we have a very good situation in Sweden. It's almost 50-50. I think we are 44-46% women in parliament. But of course, if I should be frank, we have never had a woman as our prime minister. But also our government is about 50-50. I think there is more women than men, and also the leadership in our committees and our delegations and so on, it's also equal between men and women. So I think I have a very good position, and I could see as well that things have developed very good in Sweden. But I would also like to mention that women earn a little bit less than men in all positions. If we are looking at leadership in our business sector, it's a little bit more men than women. And if we are looking on the very top, it's more men than women. But for me, I have never had any, on the personal level, problem as parliamentarians. Oh, well, I remember a long time ago.
Yes, tell us about that experience.
I was a young mother, and I was running for the regional parliament, so it was not at the national level. And there was a man I looked up at, and he's quite old at that time. I'm not sure he was that old, but he told me that he thought it would be difficult for me as a young woman and a mother, and I was a nurse as well in my education. I have a bachelor in nursing, to really be a member of the regional parliament, if I could do it. And I said, yes, of course I can. What's the problem? Oh, it's too difficult. It's not easy questions. And he was as well running. I was elected and he didn't got elected. So I think I haven't heard such things for very long time. It was early 90s.
No, but thank you so much for sharing that experience. And what motivated you to leave your career as a nurse and being a very young mother and saying, well, let's do this. I want to become a parliamentarian.
Well, that's a good question. Well, I have been active in politics for a very long time. Very long time. Actually, as a student at the gymnasium, I think it's what you call high school, I started to be a little bit aware about politics, and we had a strange debate in Sweden if there should be grades or not in school. And I was in favor of grades. So I started to read which youth organizations of the parties are in favor of grades. And there were only one. And it's the party I belong to today that I am elected for. So I joined them and was a member. And then I left when I started the university to study first to be a nurse, and I didn't have time. And later I started to think about when I worked as a clinical nurse that I thought the healthcare sector was very strange, organized. I started to check a bit on it, but not to go in politics. It was to be more able to develop healthcare. So I started for my other education. So I am also a Master of Social Science with sociology as my main topic. And during master education in sociology, I started to think more about the healthcare, not of the perspective of a professional, but of the perspective from politics. So I started to read about who wants to do what in with the healthcare sector and for the students and so on. And I ended up in my party again. So I was engaged in the student organization of my party. And I was chairperson, was the Free Moderate Student Organization. And I was chair of the organization in my city, in Stockholm. But then I left and I started on my career as a clinical head nurse. And I started to work at the university because I decided that I should get a doctoral degree. But the politics. So I went to politics and I went to the regional parliaments because there is the responsibility healthcare. But I figured out that it's not only about being responsible for the organization, it's also the laws. And they are at the national level. So I ran for the national level. And I was elected 1999. But it's not true that I have been a parliamentarian since 1999 because I lost my position 2002. It's always the voters who decide. And I lost the position, but I was back 2006 and I've been in parliament since that. But I have been in politics for quite a long time, yes. And it's also, for me, the issue have always been my interest for politics have gone together with the different stages of my life. Mm-hmm. It started as a student with the grades, because that's what is important. Mm-hmm. I continued when I was at the university with the education issue, the organization structure. Then I continued when I was a mother because I left and I was back to politics. I didn't work, I was home with my kids, and I started to think about the society, what it looks like. And I wanted to make a difference. So I joined politics again. And there I am. Yes.
And let me ask you about that when I am also a new mother, 22 months now, and it just changes part of what your mindset is. And you really, you always want to leave a better world for future generations. But when you are a mother, you have that very particular connection and you take it as a very personal thing. So thinking about new generations and younger girls and boys and that want to get into politics, that want to change things from within the political system and want to become parliamentarians, what advice would you give them?
Go for your heart. Go what you really want to do. Decide if you want to do it. Go for it. But then I must say, and this is my personal experience, to be a mother, as you are, Monica, you know it, there is a lot of demands. It's difficult to do everything. And you can't do everything. Nobody can do everything. So you need in some way to have support from home. Who you marry, it have a lot of impact on your life. And for me, I am lucky. I am married with a man. We have been married for more than 30 years, and I am happy for him. But we are sharing the work at home, our responsibilities. It's not only on me, it's also on him. And I'm also lucky because my mother and father-in-law, when I was younger, they assisted as well and took care about their grandchildren. My parents, they live in the southern part of Sweden, so they don't live in the same city as I, but always when my father was still alive, when it was election time, he drove 650 kilometers on Monday morning to be here in my city in Stockholm to take care of his grandchildren and our home. And then he drove back on Friday afternoon when he had given the children to the daycare. So, I mean, you need to have a network around you. And also, of course, to have been very long time in politics. I have also, there is part of my life that I have given away. You can't do everything. And sometimes I think about when it comes to my spare time, I am not the most social person because I have so many social contacts. It's not possible to give big dinners, to be everywhere at social events, be happy, smiling when you are working 60 or 70 hours a week.
It's very tough. It's just as you say, you need that network of support from home, and it's very important to have a very supportive partner when you are a woman and you're entering into politics.
Yes, and that's always what men says. I can still hear some, they are mostly elderly, who said, oh yes, my support at home, who helped me. And that's good. But I haven't heard any woman express herself like that. It's more like I do. We are sharing. We are both of us are taking responsibilities. And I think that's important. And there is a need for daycare. But as I said, I am lucky. I have a husband that I love, who I hope loves me as well and take his responsibilities. I have children who are healthy. If they wasn't healthy, then I had to choose what to do. And then it's always the children. Mm-hmm. Of course. So, I mean, there is a lot, if. But I think I have managed and I am happy for that. But also about your private life. You have to prioritize. As I said, I am not the most social person. My kids remember it, but I don't feel ashamed. But when it have been their exams, I haven't been there every day, every time. It have been my husband who have been there, or their grandparents. Mm-hmm. Together with my husband, because you can't do everything. But I have been there at other times when my husband haven't been there. But nobody tells a man, what a pity that you couldn't be when your children graduate. But always when it's a woman. Mm-hmm. There is one thing, it's quite interesting. Now when I think about it, when my kids were small and went to school, the parents, they met often then and planned some activities, making some cakes or something to sell, have some markets or something. And I didn't go on those meetings because I did very often have meetings in the evening. Mm-hmm. And my husband did always go on them. But it was just he and another man, and the rest of the participants were women. And when I show up once, they look very surprised and asked and they said, oh, we thought your husband was a lonely father. Oh. So we never asked him to do any cooking or to take part in our markets or something like that because he was a lonely father. And I asked him, but you have lonely mothers here. Yes, but we love to do this. So we have never in my family done any bakery or things like that for my kids in school. It was because all the other, women, they thought my husband was a lonely parent, so they didn't want to give him extra duties. And this is, of course, it shows a little bit about how we in the society, I say in the society because I am as well a part of the society, how we look up on the differences between men and women and what's supposed to do, and why should a man always go to the meetings for the parents and not the woman.
Yes, you are absolutely right. And I would like to ask you also, as a PGA member and president of PGA, why did you join the network? What made you make that step to join?
I believe very strongly in human rights. And I believe in the individual right to everybody should have the possibility to live their life without any threat. I do as well believe in a rule-based order. And I don't think we can handle this situation only on the national level. We need as well international cooperation, because we are all human beings, and nobody could say that I have the solution or my country had the solution. We need to work together, and that's why I joined PGA. And I must say, I think it's fantastic with PGA because it's an NGO, and we are members on as individuals. This means that we don't have to take any political activity. We don't need to be a part of our political group, because it's our own values and not our party's values. And I think this is very good. I am very strong connected with my party. But if you live in a country with a lot of repression and our opposition, how should you be able to act to make a difference? I think PGA is excellent here, because you can always inspire each other, and there is the secretariat with a high level of skills and knowledge. PGA is a fantastic organization, and I am very proud to be, first of all, a member, but also to have been elected as president.
Thank you, Margareta. And going into this idea, which I also share with you, about not only the national solutions matter, but it's really the international cooperation that can make a lot of change. Thinking of this particular moment with a global pandemic, what do you think has been one issue, international issue, that is just affecting international cooperation, or that some countries have taken as a way to continue repressing their societies?
Oh, well, it's a very big and a very difficult question, as we are right now in the pandemic. And it's always difficult to have any thoughts when you are in the middle of something. It's not easy, but I could see that just as you reflect, Monica, you have made some other solutions in Sweden. And I could also see that there are solutions in US and other places. It means already that you're reflecting and getting impression from other countries. And this is a possibility to go forward and not only think like the horse with this small view, to get a wider perspective. I think as well that there is quite a lot of countries where there are governments who have grabbed the chance to run over the parliament, the people's will, in the perspective of there is a need for strong leadership, and we don't have time for such things as democracy or for a parliamentarian procedure. And this is a dangerous way. It might be useful for a short period, but there need always to be a possibility for the parliament to say yes or no to the decision taken by the government. There need as well always to be a possibility for the parliament to scrutinize the government. And it doesn't matter if it's a crisis or a global pandemic or financial structure, whatever, because it's about democracy. So that's very important. And I have seen examples. I don't want to mention any particular country here at this stage, but I have seen very sad examples where the parliaments have been just bypassed by the government. And I think here is an organization like PGA with parliamentarians that could work together and actually push forward. And those who come from countries where the democracy have been misused during the COVID-19, they can get strength from other parliamentarians who haven't seen this, and they could also get support from our secretariat. And I think this is very important because it's a difficult time.
Yes, and in addition to the parliament, one very important group and stakeholder is also civil society. And these spaces have just continued to shrink for them to express themselves and to continue doing their work. So in this sense, within this context, but also just in general, what recommendations would you give civil society representatives in their communications and trying to establish a relationship, a working relationship with parliamentarians? What would you recommend would be a good way, an effective way of approaching MPs?
I think it is vary a bit between different culture. I am from a culture where we are well known to be effective and very short in our speaking words, and we are more direct. So in my part of the world, I think it's important for the civil society to be direct. Maybe it's not everywhere in the world, but to go to the point. Because a politician, there is a lot of organizations who wants to grab us. And you need to be very clear as a civil organization to what's the problem? What kind of solution can you bring? And you are willing to discuss this with the politician. I think that's the most way to go forward, because you need to have to present a problem, but as well a solution. And I think give time for the politician to think and develop their thoughts, because as a person, you know exactly what the problem is. You know how to express it. And you want to talk to really convince the others what's the problem and how to solve it. But as always, when it's communication, listen a bit and give space for the politician as well to think high and ask their questions and be prepared to have an answer. And don't try to lie. Don't try to have an hidden agenda, because it's always visible in some way. You can a person who have an hidden agenda, it might look a little bit strange. There is always something that's not really serious or that don't fit together. It's better to be frank.
I agree completely. And you've given us very generous time. I want to end with one personal question a little bit. What would be surprising about you that people normally wouldn't think of? Or something that would be unusual to think about you when people meet you in just a professional space?
I don't know, but what should I say? I love to be with my family a lot, and they are my everything. And that's why I normally don't talk so much about them either, because I keep them outside of the political arena. But I have two things. I like to play the piano, never public, only for myself. And I like to do the embroidery, because to see something growing, to do the cross stitch. I like it very much. And it's a good way to not think about anything more than the pattern you have in front of you. And I love hiking. to be in the forest. That's the best place to be.
Yes, Margareta, you are absolutely right. Is there anything else you would like to add before we end our interview?
Keep up the good work with PGA because, as I said, the network of parliamentarians who work on a voluntary basis is absolutely amazing, and the knowledge and skills of the Secretariat.
Thank you, Margareta. We were very delighted, Eva and I, to have the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon in Stockholm, morning in New York. It was a real pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
See you next week, Monica. And thank you, Monica. And thank you, Eva, for this interview. And I wish you success with your further work on this project, as I think is absolutely fantastic. Good luck and see you next week. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Eva. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on this occasion. Please visit us at www.pgaction.org to learn more about our campaigns and how parliamentarians are pillars in their country's democratic systems. If you have any comments or questions, please contact me at monica.adame@pgaction.org. See you next time.